the Musicians Creating Prosperity podcast, where you'll discover business, mindset, and leadership strategies to put your music business on autopilot. I'm your host, Dr. Fabiana Claure, pianist and former university professor turned seven-figure entrepreneur dedicated to empowering artists worldwide. Whether you're a seasoned musician or other creative entrepreneur, this podcast is your guide to financial, artistic, and lifestyle freedom. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Musicians Creating Prosperity debut episode. Today, I'm going to share with you an overview of what you can expect from this new podcast, why I decided to create it now, and how you can benefit from tuning each and every week, and also sharing with anyone you think could benefit from this content. First, let's talk about why musicians creating prosperity. For the longest time, I have seen musicians struggle with having to choose between creating prosperity, creating wealth, building their businesses, and being able to have a balanced life, quality of time with their family, and an aligned, artistically fulfilled career. The reason is because musicians have been trained and conditioned that the models to create a livelihood are typically ones in which they have to be trading their time for money. They have to be working hourly. They have to be depending on one-to-one lessons, one-to-one instruction, performing, and having to depend on the income they get only when they're on stage. And most of the ways musicians have learned to create a livelihood for themselves has been centered around having to be working at a certain day and a certain time. And I want to share in this episode and in this podcast why musicians now have a unique opportunity to leverage the technology that we have and how you can actually now take a step back and reinvent your life and your music business so that you can monetize your knowledge instead of your time. The goal of this podcast is to shed a new light into the different avenues that musicians can now use to build businesses that do not require them to trade time for money anymore, that do not require them to live in a certain location, that do not require them to be on a certain day and a certain time in order to earn a living. But instead, you can work from around the world. You can work on your own times. You can continue pursuing your creative projects and everything that matters to you without needing to depend on the income from your artistic projects. We'll talk a lot about new income streams. We'll talk a lot about ways and you can also create your different perspectives, how you can expand your belief system, how you can create a different mindset approach towards what you're doing. Because the good news is that when you're committed to building prosperity as a musician, it is not just an external process. It is not just about the wealth you get to create, the business you get to build. It is about the version of yourself that you get to become in the process. So I'll share more about why I'm so passionate about this topic. Personally, I'm a pianist. I've come from the background of being a musician all my life, culminating my education in a doctorate degree in piano performance. And soon after, my husband, who was also a pianist, and we both graduated together with our degrees in music and our doctorates, we realized we needed to have a business that could allow us to maintain our livelihood and not rely exclusively on having an employer give us that livelihood. We wanted to take action on our own. We wanted to be self-reliant, so to speak. And also we realized that in the traditional career paths, most musicians don't just graduate from school and go straight into a job. There are very, very few traditional job placement opportunities that graduates can expect immediately upon graduation. So we created our first business, Superior Academy of Music, a brick and mortar school back in 2011. And shortly upon graduating, we were able to jump into the world of being entrepreneurs and building a business. But after becoming parents a few years later, and after realizing that we didn't only build a business, but we needed to create a way for it to run on its own because it was taking too much of our time, too much of our energy, and we needed to be more efficient. We discovered that the business can actually grow and improve when we are removing ourselves from it. So a few years after starting the business and running it and launching it, I discovered that I wanted to be able to expand my skill set and help more people grow their businesses and really use what they've been built as musicians to serve at a greater level. And Within 5 years of building our music school, I was appointed director of music business and entrepreneurship at the University of North Texas. And in 2016, we relocated our family. We had a 2 year old at the time, and we moved from Miami to Texas. And in this transition from Miami to Texas, we had to restructure our music school so that it could run on autopilot, essentially, so that it could run without us. And that lesson opened my eyes to the fact that musicians don't just need to learn about business. They don't just need to learn about how to market, how to sell. They need to learn about how to build a business that can ultimately be run on autopilot. That does not depend on you needing to be involved in every step of the process. And that ultimately, if you want to step away, if you want to maybe shift into a different direction, or simply just create something different, you can have an asset that has been created for yourself and for your family that doesn't just go away because you're no longer in it. And so for the 5 years that I was working as a professor at the University of North Texas, that became my central focus. It was helping musicians understand how to be savvy in the process of building businesses and how to create them in a way that wouldn't take all their time. And I created a curriculum. I was able to break down the step-by-step process on how do you even teach this to musicians, because I had done it. I hadn't necessarily taught it before, but this process was a great opportunity to learn how to break down the step-by-steps that are needed to be able to grow and build sustainable music businesses, whether they are in the nonprofit area, for profit, whether they are online or in person, and really diversify the options for musicians not to have to feel that unless they get hired by a university or get hired in an orchestra job, that they cannot have a job, that they are dependent on institutions giving them their livelihood. No. My passion was to empower our music students at the time to build businesses while still in school, just like my husband and I had done when we were doctorate candidates. And so that became an amazing journey of exploration, of growth, of becoming part of a thriving culture, a thriving community at the university. And once again, after 4 years of being in that role and serving in the setting of academia, I felt a new urge, a desire to expand my skills and to serve musicians around the world and not necessarily limit to what I was doing in the context of the university. And this was in early 2020 where I decided, what if I could expand my skill sets and really consolidate all of the things that I had done and build a business based on the umbrella framework. That is not about just thinking you need to choose one side of yourself. The truth is, I had experience as a pianist, as an entrepreneur, as an educator, and I had all my perspective was also influenced by being a mom and a wife, really. And so I decided, what if I could combine it all into an umbrella and build a brand that really combined everything that I had to offer and served through that. That's when the birth of the Musician's Profit umbrella came to be, which is basically a proprietary framework now that is helping musicians around the world consolidate their skills and build online businesses so that they don't have to continue trading time for money. And so after my first year of launching my online business, going from 0 to 6 figures in 6 months and scaling from there, my business really gave me the faith and the desire to go all in. And after a year of juggling both my university job and my business, I decided to quit my university job, much to the dismay of most of my colleagues in the university field, because as musicians usually associate having a prestigious institution, backing them up is something that most people are not necessarily willing to give that up. But yet I had discovered that actually you can work less. You can have more control over your time. You can actually have more control over your income when you just work in this online way, and you have a path to unlimited time freedom and unlimited location freedom, and of course, unlimited earning freedom. And so when I decided to step out of academia and go all in into my business, this was in mid 2021, the whole process of now, how do I build a sustainable business that is not going to drain all my energy, to take off all my time, really came into full force. Because at this point, I had already 2 children, 2 businesses, and a desire to really impact musicians at a greater level. Many of the people that came to me were parents as well, with kids, and just wanting to free their time in a significant way. Right. And so this became a passion of mine to, yes, we talk about wealth. Yes, we talk about building, a legacy and creating assets for yourself and for your family. But this podcast is going to be primarily around helping you create a new relationship with your time. Time is the most precious asset that you cannot get back. Time is the one thing that you cannot get back. And what I'm committed is to showing you through specific, episodes, trainings, strategies, tools, resources, how you can gain back control of your time and work in a way that removes that dependency, that frees you from that trap of having to trade time in order to earn a living, whether it's performing, whether it's teaching one to one, whatever you're working on right now as a musician, entrepreneur, or creative that you're doing, chances are you are limited to having to be at a certain place at a certain time and trade your time in this way. And so this podcast is going to show you how you can actually start shifting from that model and embracing an online way of living, an online brand, and being able to create extraordinary results for your clients, really fulfill them at the highest level based on your knowledge, based on your story, based on your experiences, and basically productizing your intellectual property so that people can access it on their own time based on their needs and whatever they want from you. So that's the main reason why I'm committed to showing up and sharing everything that I can with my community and really bringing in guest speakers that can speak to this, that can talk about new ways that musicians can gain back control over their time, new models that can allow them to feel empowered, that can allow you, my listener, to realize that you actually have so much potential and that perhaps up until this point, you were simply aiming at the wrong target. Perhaps you were simply trying to grow your business in the old model, in the old fashioned way. Perhaps you were simply trying to just do more of what's not working because you didn't know any better. This platform, this podcast will create a new conversation that will show musicians how it's actually possible once and for all to work smarter, not harder. To create also a livelihood where you don't have to choose between making money and pursuing your craft. Another reason why I'm so committed to releasing this podcast and sharing this conversation at a much broader level is because musicians for the longest time have associated a career in the arts as one in which it's very unlikely to become lucrative, to become profitable, to actually create that prosperity. And other professions have been associated with more financial stability, like doctors and lawyers and accountants and all these things. And so many musicians are even going into school, getting a degree in music, and then getting a backup degree in other fields, simply because they feel like the chances of them creating a sustainable life in music are very slim. And while I'm always in favor of learning and diversifying your skill sets, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I want you to actually realize that if you learn how to build a career and a business as a musician, following the models that don't tie you with your time, that don't trap you in this time for money situation, in fact, you're going to be able to build wealth and create stability for yourself without having that need to back up to go for a different job, a different plan. So many graduates are coming out of universities these days with shiny degrees, with amazing chops, professional skills. They're amazing musicians, and yet they have to switch everything and find a traditional job where they're completely disconnected from everything they learned in school, and all their skills are kind of put to the side in the need of just making money and creating a livelihood and providing for themselves and their family. And that, in a way, becomes soul crushing. And I can relate to this because for many years, when I was very busy building my music school and kind of becoming an entrepreneur for the very first time, I too did not see the relationship between how can I justify sitting at the piano, practicing an instrument, getting to work on my creativity when I have a business to run, when I have a toddler, a baby to take care of. It feels like a luxury that I just couldn't afford because I did not see the relationship between having a business and really monetizing your creativity. And so what I'm going to be bringing to this podcast, and really over the course of many, many episodes, because this is a huge topic, it's not just for now, but I want to give you a preview, is how you can actually, as an artist, how you can integrate in your business model everything you do creatively. And instead of thinking you need to release music and hope that people buy enough tracks or download enough tracks in order to monetize that, piece of work, or releasing books and hoping that people buy enough of those books, or building a YouTube channel and hope that somehow you can monetize the following from that channel and one day maybe create enough, revenue through that. We're going to show you how you can actually create an online business where you can mentor, where you can guide, where you can basically translate your knowledge and be able to share that with people, whether they're coming to you for music lessons, whether they're coming to you for anything else you may want to help people do. You see, you are not just one side, right? You are not just a teacher or just a performer or just an administrator or just an arts educator. You are the collection of your skills. And in fact, the more you know how to consolidate that and communicate the value of the collective experience you've built, the more you set yourself apart. No longer competition feels like a threat. No longer you deal with imposter syndrome, right? No longer you worry about why would people come to me when there's so many other people doing what I do. No, all of that becomes clear when you realize how, by uniting your skills and creating, your own umbrella, you can actually set yourself apart and thrive and attract ideal clients and attract people to collaborate with you, to be part of your team, to be a part of your movement. So my goal in this podcast is to really guide you, the listener, to be with you every single week in giving you not just the strategies and the tactics, but above all, elevating your perspective, giving you a hope, giving you a reason why you can aim higher than what you may have been aiming up until this point, how you can see the new opportunities that are available to you as an artist, and how you can start making plans and dreaming bigger and realize that you don't need to work harder at what's not working. You just need to understand how to emphasize and put your attention and energy in a different model, in one in which it may be very, very unconventional. It may go against what you have mostly seen your entire life, but one in which more and more musicians today are thriving and, in fact, creating prosperity. So we're going to be having wonderful conversations with guest speakers. We're going to be talking about all the ins and outs of this new movement. But I want you to give yourself an opportunity to just grow. I have personally benefited from so many wonderful, thought leaders and authors and mentors and people that have allowed my perspective to be elevated and continue to do so, by the way. And I am now dedicated to giving back. This is my expression of gratitude to the community that has given me so much, and bringing back the lessons from the trenches, the lessons that I've learned, the lessons that I've seen my clients learn, the lessons that our guest speakers have learned, and help you, give you that breakthrough, that epiphany every single week to shift you into a better direction in your business and in your life. I believe that when you have the right idea, when you have the right angle, the right focus, anything is possible. So get excited. Go ahead and share this with people. Make sure you subscribe. Leave us a review so that we can share this. We can expand the message. Rally the troops, folks. Let's get together. Let's come together in this mission of building prosperity so that we can elevate this industry, so that we can create a radical change, a shift, and empower musicians and creatives to actually stand in their power and in light and serve at even higher levels. You see, when you are aligned, when you are empowered, when you are not in a state of burnout, when you're not feeling that your time isn't enough and you're just not able to keep up, you can serve at a higher level. You can be more present for your students, for your family. You can be more energized when you perform, when you create music, when you release your productions. You can deliver better work when you are more in tune, when you are aligned. So get excited. This is going to be a new era for musicians around the world. And I can't wait to continue this conversation. Until next time, let's prosper together.